So this week, as I mentioned, the beginning of the shir is Parshas Boy. And I think every year I have fundamentally the same talk on Parshas Boy. How could one, Parshas Boy, not discuss the fundamental Ramban at the end of this week's Parsha? And the Ramban explains why it is so important and so essential to remember the Nisam of Yetzias Mitzrayim. We have many mitzvahs that are Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim. Not only Sipi Yetzias Mitzrayim B'Leila Seder, Schiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim every morning and every evening. Tefillin is a Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim. All the mitzvahs of Bechor, Bchorodom, Bchor Be'emet Torah, Bchor Te'emet Torah are all Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim. Shabbos is a Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim. So why is it so important to remember the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim? And then Ramban explains. Min hanisim hagedolim v'hamifrosamim Adam modeh benisim hahistorim shehem yesoid kol haTorah kulo. She'ein lanu chelek b'Torahs Moshe. We have no part in Torah. It is only ad sheneda shekol dvorenu v'mekrenu hem nisim ein behem teva v'minhagoi shel olam. Everything is miraculous. Everything that happens with us is miracles. Ein behem teva v'minhagoi shel olam. And that is why we are to remember the amazing, supernatural, out of the realm of natural phenomena, the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim, to strengthen our emunah in the miracles of concealment, in the everyday miracles. Ein behem teva v'minhagoi shel olam. The Rambam in Yud Gimel Ikrei Emunah writes the same. Shabori yisborach shemoi. Boire v'manig lekol habruim v'hu levado asa v'oseh v'yaseh lekol hama'asim. The Rambam and the Ramban weren't betlonim. They were well aware about the laws of nature. They were well aware that this is a world with a great deal of determinism, we know about nature. Ein behem teva v'minhagoi shel olam. What the Rambam and the Ramban mean to explain, to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, there is no difference whatsoever between the natural and the supernatural. Hu levado asa v'oseh v'yaseh lekol hama'asim. Everything is Retzonai HaPoshut Yisborach Shemo. Yes, the Rambam and the Ramban were doctors. The Rambam was the most famous physician of his time. But the Rashba writes in two different shuvas that the Ramban was a doctor as well, which is not very well known. The Ramban administered medicine, like many early Gedolei Harishonim. So they knew something about medicine, about biology, and the Rambam in Kiddush HaChodesh writes a great deal about astronomy. What they mean to say is, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is all the same. Do you know who the Baal Moifes was in the days of Chachmei HaMishnah? There was one Tano that was an Admor, a Baba. No, I don't like that word. But Reb Chanina ben Dosa, there's not even one memra in halacha anywhere from Reb Chanina ben Dosa. We don't have one halachic statement from this great Tana. No Mishnah, no Brisa, no Gemara, none. There's not one halacha that we learn that were taught by Reb Chanina ben Dosa. What do we know about him? Many places in Shas, he was the Baal Moifes. Anybody that needed the Yeshua came and gave a kvittel to Reb Chanina ben Dosa. And on the spot, he knew, will he live or chas v'sholem not? And he says, in tfilos shgura b'fi, yodei ani shemiskebeles. If main tfilos shgura b'fi, I know that my tefillos weren't accepted. So there was a terrible serpent somewhere in a little town that killed many people. What do? You bring Reb Chanina ben Dosa, and he asks, where is this snake's pit? It was a venomous snake. Takes off his shoe, puts his foot next to the snake's pit. As sure as you could imagine, the snake sticks out his head. It was a viper. I don't know what it was, a black mamba or a rattlesnake. I don't know what it was. And it bites Reb Chanina ben Dosa, and the snake dies on the spot. And he says, Oila Adam shepaga bayarad. You unlucky snake. You bit the wrong person. So Reb Chanina ben Dosa was the wonder worker. And at the end of Tanis, Chazal tell a story. Reb Chanina ben Dosa's daughter wants to light Ner Shabbos, and it doesn't work. The psila doesn't catch on. The wick doesn't catch on. And to her horror, she realizes that we have no oil at home, and it's vinegar. And she starts to cry, Abba, we won't have Shabbos licht. And Reb Chanina ben Dosa says, my lovely little child, biti ma ichpas lach. Misha omer Hashemen v'yadlik, yoim elachim v'yadlik. Wow, another miracle of Reb Chanina ben Dosa. And I say, when we learn this Gemara, don't be nespoil another miracle. Nobody that knew Reb Chanina ben Dosa was nespoil when he saw miracles. Everything about this Tana was miraculous. Every day. What we need to appreciate is his language. He says, Biti, my ichpas lach. Why are you crying? If his wife went to Beis Yaakov, I could imagine she smiles and he says, Abba, you're a great tzaddik, but you know nothing about chemistry. Vinegar is not inflammable. Oil is. This is vinegar. Vinegar doesn't burn. And Reb Chanina ben Dosa smiles back at his daughter and he says, Yaldati achamuda, I know that vinegar is not inflammable, but why is that? Because that is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it to be. So I believe that right now HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to have Shabbos licht. So I hope HaKadosh Baruch Hu will decide in our home, this set of Shabbos afternoon, vinegar will burn just like oil, because to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's all the same. And to him, it makes no difference. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could create 1,000,000 worlds, 1,000,000 universes, and each of them will have a different set of physics, chemistry, biology, astro, whatever it is, and hydrobiology, and each world will have a different set. And then it'll create many worlds that will be spontaneous, totally unpredictable. One day the sun will rise in the west and set in the east. A day after it'll rise in the south and set in the south. And a day after the sun won't rise at all and it'll have a day off. Hakol b'dei shamayim. And that is what the Ramban means. Everything is miracles. To HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's all the same. And that is fundamental to our emunah. And that is why we need to remember the supernatural to appreciate the miracle of the natural, the miracle of life, the miracle of whatever you see and witness every day, the miracle of this amazing world and the beauty of this world, to appreciate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But we get into a rut. You see the same every day, and you think it's natural. There's no difference between nature, between the natural and the miraculous. It's all biyadei shamayim. And the reason we need to remember the supernatural events of Yetzias Mitzrayim, these 10 plagues and Kriyas Yamsef were totally out of the realm of natural phenomena, to appreciate the miracles of every day, the miracles of nature. And then the Ramban goes on. In the same Ramban, and he says, Tachlis Abriya, Tachlis hayetzira harishayna. Ve'ein la'el elyon chayfetz betachtoinem. Ki im sheyeda ha'adam v'yodeh le'elokav shebara'oi. So many books, so many svarim were written about why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu create the world? Why? Why are we here? What is life about? Why were we chosen by HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So many whys hovering in the air. And to the Ramban, everything is so Parshas, so simple. Ein la'el elyon chayfetz betachtoinem ki im sheyeda ha'adam v'yodeh le'elokov shebara'oi. The Ramban uses two different words, sheyeda v'yodeh. He should realize, recognize, acknowledge, and pay gratitude. Did anybody say this before the Ramban? Yes. Who? The Novi Yeshayahu on Perik Mem Gimel. Amzu yotzarti li, tihilosi yisaperu. I chose this people. They should sing my praise. That is why we were chosen, and that is our duty. And that is what we are about. So when Yaakov Avinu benches his son Yehuda, Yehuda ato yoiducho achecho, there's an interesting medrash. And Mendesh says, what does that mean? Ato yoiducho achecho. In all the generations to come, Jews will not call each other Reuveni, Shimoni, Zvuloni, Godi. They will always call each other Yehudi, regardless of which tribe you came from. But the Medrash doesn't explain why. Libi Yoimeli, it's very simple why. Where does the name Yehuda come from? Leah says, Hapam odeh et Hashem. We are Yehudim. That is the essence of who we are. Amzu yotzarti li, tihilosi yisaperu. And that is what we're all about. We have Tariya mitzvahs. But it boils down, Sheyeda ha'odam v'yodeh le'elakav shebaroi. Before say thank you, you need to acknowledge, appreciate, realize that whatever we have is not what we take on our own. It is only what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. And I think that is the matbeya of Hoidoya. So I just open up a siddur and I want to make a few comments. What is the nature of gratitude? So 3 prukim that we say every day in the morning. I start off with Elokai neshama shenotato bi. According to the Gemara, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, we should start every day as a person opens his eyes. This is the first thing he should be saying. The Turin Simon Vov quotes his great father Darash. It's not our minig because we don't want to be Moitzi Shem Shemayim before Natilas Yadayim, and that is why we say Moida Anila Fonecho Melachai Vekayim. And I explained many times. Moida Anila Fonecho means 2 things: acknowledging, admitting, like Moida B'miktsas, and saying thank you. And that is the essence of Elokai Neshama. Elokai Neshama Shenatato B'Tohairoi. Atu Berasa. Atu Yitzarto. Atu Nafachto Bi. Atu Meshamro B'Kirbi. This is before saying thank you. This is acknowledging. Don't take anything for granted. I opened my eyes this morning because HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided I deserve another day. So first, before saying thank you, we just recognize and acknowledge. Atu Barosa, Atu Yitzarto, Atu Nafachto Bi, Atu Meshamro B'Kirbi. And only then do we go on and say, Kol Zman Shanashoma B'Kirbi Moida Nila Fonecho Hashem Elokai V'Elokai V'Isai. And only then do we say, thank you. Mizmar L'Saida. Of all the 150 Prokim in Tehillim, Perek Kuf, number 100, is about Hoidoya. What do we say in this Perek? Mizmar Esoide Orei Hashem Kalo Tzivdu Es Hashem B'Simcha Ba'el Afon Ameno De'u. Know, understand, acknowledge. De'u Ki Hashem Hu Elokim, Hu Asanu, Lo Anachnu, Amay V'Tzoy Merosai. And only then, Boyo Sha'arav B'Soido Chatzeroisov B'Sehilo. Before you say thank you, you need to acknowledge. Like the Ramban says, Sheyeda ha'adam, and only then sheyodeh. And Birchas Haidoya and the Shemayna Esra, it's the same. Moidem anachnoch she'atohu Hashem Elokeinu v'lakei v'sein li'olavu et tzureinu tzurchayenu mugan yishenu atohu l'doyer v'doyer. And only then noidelacha u'nesape tehilosecha. So that is what we're all about. Sheyeda ha'adam v'yodeh le'elokov shebaroi. And when we remember Yetzias Mitzrayim and all these amazing supernatural events, and we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares, and He controls, Hu boidev v'manig l'kol habruim, v'hu levadai osa v'oisa v'yasa l'kol ha'maasim. It is only then that you appreciate and you say thank you. And that's why we are Yehudim. Al Shem Yehuda, apam oide es Hashem. And that is Tachlis Habriya, according to the Ramban. It is the reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and it is the reason Shebochar Banu Mekol Amim V'nasan Lano Esterosoi Amzu Yotzarti Li Tilosi Yisaperu. So tomorrow morning when you say Moidani, when you say Elokai Nishom Mishon Satabi, when you say Mizmar Esoide, when you say Moidem, bear this in mind. We acknowledge, we don't take anything for granted. Al kol neshima uneshima tahalaliyah. And then we really thank you from the depth of, say thank you from the depths of our hearts. Koyetan Hashem v'ko Yosef, and all our life. Moida la'ova v'tzoyek ha'osed. Kadosh Baruch Hu should give us continued chazdei shemayim, rachamei shemayim, lahagdil Torah u'la'adira u'la'kadei shem shemayim. And we should be zoicha b'kora b'yameinu to see pnei Moshiach tzedkeinu b'mheiro v'yomeinu. Amen.